Week 1, bonus 1. Hey, I want to tell you a couple of interesting things about masks, about stencils, about how they look. Now, some of it you already know. Let me show you the many faces that a mask may take on. This is very important. I'm going to cycle through masks in many Adobe apps, but I want you to pay attention to this, how they look. They look different. Even within Photoshop, they can have different looks. Let's take a peek at the first. The one that you've already been introduced to is the dancing ants. Right whenever there is a selection that's live or active, you see those dancing ants. Now, that's what I call them, but what Adobe calls them are the marquee. The marquee. The marquee, like an old movie marquee. The marquee. They look like dancing ants. I haven't been to a 1940s movie marquee in a very long time. At any rate, the dancing ants, number one. Number two, a mask may look like this. I'm clicking at the bottom of the toolbar. You don't have to know that, but it may look red. I'll click it again. It may look black and white when it's saved as a stencil. It may look red over in channels as well as something called quick mask. This is in channels. It can look like dancing ants. It can be surrounded by red in multiple ways. But the newest ways, the ways you would not have recognized, might be in color. Now, the typical selection color for a mask is white. We're going to learn about this, but I want you to see it first before I plow into it while I'm teaching. I just want you to get a look at what masks may appear like. This white ghosted shape here is also a mask. It's the equivalent of dancing ants around its outer edge. It's white, but I could make it any color I wanted to, and I normally do that in order to contrast with whatever my context is. I don't want a green selection, for example, over green grass. My number 2 and number 1 choices would be hot pink and hot green usually, but I don't like white. But you may see it in white. You may see it in green or pink or any other color of the rainbow. That's what a mask might look like. I want you to know that. Now, I want to introduce you to the Tease. We're learning about masks. You've just seen what they look like. I've already told you they act like stencils, wherein only the changes you make will appear inside the confines of the mask. But now what I want to do is quickly in this bonus video run through a list of why we care. What might we do with a mask? Follow me. I'm not going to teach you how, but I'm going to show you what. The teaching how will follow throughout the rest of the course. I might use a mask to do two things, in particular, to an eye or eyes. Let me show them to you. I'm going to create a mask for the eyes of this little girl, and I'm going to do one of two things. That is, brighten the eyes and color the eyes. Do you see the mask? I see it. I see the mask. There it is. What might I do? I might brighten the eyes. I don't want to get caught. Just a little brightness. And I might saturate the eyes to create a bit more color pop. I might even add a totally new color to the eyes. You can see all that happened just then. Brighten eyes, recolor the eyes before and after. I might brighten and or recolor eyes. What else might I do? Well, I might need a mask to select my subject. In this case, I'm going to select her facial skin. See the green? That's the mask. Why do I want to make a selection of her skin? Well, she's asked that I may dial down the texture of the skin. She doesn't like all that detail. There's after, there's before, after, before. So I might use a mask to make a selection that dials down flesh detail in skin. A third way I might use a mask, the what, is to equalize lighting. This child here on the left was too close to my flash, compared at least to the child on the right. And so what might I do? Well, I might make a selection, a gradient selection in this case, and dial the light back down just to equalize, even up the lighting. But I don't want to do the background as well. So this particular mask, you'll see in green, surrounds the majority of the boy, including his hair, very fine, and it fades out on the edge. And that is where the brightness update or fix will occur to equalize lighting. I might select an object on a flat background now. There's no separate swirl floating around off my background. No, it's all one flat file. But I might make a selection of an object so that I could delete the object from the background completely. That blows my mind. Another thing I might do with a mask is use it to darken everything but my subject. That's an age-old trick called darken corners and edges. Why? It gives the illusion that the subject is actually more bright than it is. It draws the eye. It makes the subject more prominent without actually changing the values of the subject. Of course, it changes the opposite. I might select an object in order to swap out the sky. In fact, I already have, and you didn't catch me. I made a selection and used it to exchange the sky. Now, there in Photoshop are a couple of ways to do that. Here, I'm just going to wait. My hands are in the air and let it use another sky. You see, I can continue to swap skies, and Photoshop utilizes masks in order to do that. I could use a selection, a mask, in order to cut something from its background. That's a very common request, but look how quickly I did that, understanding the power of masks. Cut something from the background. I could use a mask in order to color correct an image. One of my favorite tricks, a very artsy effect, I use masks in order to combine or composite multiple images. There looks like there's a little bit of a glitch. Very nice. That is a layer mask. Another interesting trick is to use something called a clipping mask. A clipping mask. I can use a clipping mask in order to make a photograph stick inside of text and remain independent of that text. A clipping mask. This same masking trick, a clipping mask, is used to fake an image being stuck to a computer or a phone or a camera screen. That clipping mask allows me to stick an object to any other object. The object itself becomes the masking shape. Gosh, that just blows me away when I look at it. I could use text as a mask. When you click and hold your text tool, there's a text as a mask tool. I could use that in order to paint inside of a mask shaped like type. Here I am using my gradient tool to do so. I love that look, but you know, it would really be cool if I could cut that mountain out of it. For that, I'll select another mask. Now you're going to watch me combining two masks I'm combining the sky mask with the Jerome mask in order to cut Jerome. Make it look like the word Jerome is behind the mountain. The mountain is actually the sky. Gosh, that is so cool. I use and save masks in order to clip out fine details like hair. Nice. Hey, I think I'll save my stencil and take a good look at it. Hey, that's not bad, but you know what? I'm going to get rid of that very wild hair right there and there. She's getting the equivalent of a haircut before I reload that stencil, go back to my artwork, and put the type behind it. How long does it take you to cut fine hair? I can use the pen tool in Photoshop, Illustrator, or InDesign in order to create a very precise path upon which to later tell my brushes to paint. I'll show you a really advanced example of that here. I'm going to try to paint right through all the bright spots of chrome on the back of these carnival seats. I'm making sure that it's right where I want it to go before I run the paint process. That's going to be about right. I change my tool from the pen tool now to my dodge tool. I pick the right size brush, and then in the path panel I say, do it. Stroke that path. Bang. And you can see now, before and after, I set up the path, the mask, before I ever run my paint down it or my paintbrush through it. In this case, my paintbrush was the dodge tool. Two final examples. We're almost done. There's a very bizarre mask under the filter menu, under sharpening. You would think it shouldn't belong here. If I'm sharpening, why would I want to unsharp anything under sharpen? And yet unsharp mask gets its name from a mask that was actually used in the old darkroom days, in the photography darkroom. It was a blurry duplicate of a mask that was inverted and somehow magically generated a sharper image. If you really want to look that up, you could by hunting on Google. But I'm going to show you that there's a fancy mask that does a wonderful job of sharpening. Unsharp mask. I don't know if you blinked, but I just set 3 dials and I said okay. And now my image is sharper than it was when I opened it. Get a good look. Because right now it looks great, but let me show you where it was when we just opened it. Undo. Oh my gosh, it looks soft. Unsharp mask. Unsharp mask. Sharpened beautifully. Before, soft. After, nice. An unsharp mask is a terrific mask. Now I can also select, last example, in this case my subject. You've already learned this in week 1's main lesson, and I'm going to select the opposite, the outside of my subject. Now, if I were to paint with any color paint, right now it wouldn't let me paint on my subject. No, it would only let me put paint outside the subject because that is my current hole. It's outside the subject. Now you can imagine how many cool things we could do with that. But I utilize that not just for artsy-fartsy techniques, but also to clone. Now I'm going to grab my clone stamp tool. And the clone stamp tool lets me grab an area by holding the Alt or Option key. I'm going to hold Alt or Option. Alt on the PC, Option on the Mac. Grab an area where there isn't this crazy light fixture, and then click and drag to get rid of the light fixture. I'm just using it to clean out. Now, I grab this piece of lumber and I go to paint, ooh, behind his head. Well, good thing I have a selection. because it won't allow me to paint on the subject. That selection mask has protected the background. No matter what I grab, no matter where I paint, it will not allow me to accidentally paint on my subject. He's protected. That's the job of the mask. By the way, while I still have the background selected, not my subject, I could go ahead and darken the background also for special effect, you see. So I utilize a mask in order to say this is the area I want to protect from cloning, the area I want to protect from painting. Well, that's a wonderful beginning, I think, to masks. I've shown you what they look like, and I just today showed you what they might be used for. That's the magic. Instead of handing someone a hammer and or a nail and saying, here, build something, I've shown you, look what you could build. You might build a house or a barn or who knows what. It's always helpful, in my view, to see what we're trying to build as we go and learn the actual tools themselves. I hope this generates questions. On this week's Yours Day video, please, anything you saw that you want to go, wait, you blew my mind. What was that about? Can we walk through that particular thing? First, again, send me an email. That's what I'm here for, to stimulate your questions and ideas. You practice, you write, I'll respond this Yours Day. Every Thursday is Yours Day. All right, my friends, that's it for bonus 2. Check out bonus 3 as soon as you can.